We're up to the Mishnah on Kuf Tes Amid Aleph. So I'm a Kabul Sadame Chaveroi L'Shana Muatais. L'Shana Muatais over here means less than 7 years. So someone's Makabel, then this is Chachirus. He's going ahead. It's not a Risus, it's Chachirus. Again, he's giving you a set amount.
My class is here.
Okay. Sorry for that interruption. The next time it happens, you'll be removed. Anyway, so Makabel Sad Mechaver L'Shana Muatais less than 7 years. Lo Yisraenu Pishtin. Don't go ahead and plant Pishtin. Pishtin is very, very hard on the soil, and it takes 7 years for it to restore itself. So therefore, do not plant Pishtin. Beinloi B'kar Shikma, and there's sycamore trees. Like I guess sycamore, you use the sycamore trees. Also, you go ahead and you can't go ahead and use their beams because it takes 7 years for the beams to grow. However, Kiblu Menu L'Zayin Shanim, once you go ahead and you rented the field for 7 years, Shoshan Rishayna Yisrael Pishtin. The first year you'll be able to plant Pishtin because you'll be able to give it back to the owner in the same shape you got it. Because since Pishtin, it'll be recovered in the 7 years. You'll be able to take the beams from the sycamore tree because in fact it'll go and be restored 7 years later. Amar Rabbi says Abaya, B'koirish Shikma Ein. It's mashma that the chayker, the renter, he doesn't have the beams themselves, but b'shvach shikma yeshlei. But he has the right when he leaves the land to receive schar for the improvement in the tree. So he can't actually take the wood, but the fact that now this tree is worth more because there's more wood on the tree within the 7 year period, that he would be able to get. That's a baya. V'rava Amar afil b'shvach shikma nami. He doesn't even get the rights to the tree. And according to Abaya, he would be able to get the shvach, but according to Rava, not. Meisvei, we're going to ask on Rava. Makabel sada mechaberoi. Someone goes there, it's makabel bechachiris, a field from his friend. Bigiyas manalot says, and now it's time. The deal is over. Shamanlo, we go ahead and we make a shuma. We make an evaluation, right? Now it doesn't say what the evaluation is for. The assumption is my lav shamanloi b'shvach shikma, that you would even evaluate how the shikma tree improved. A riot to a baya and a kashan rava who says you don't get the shvach. Says maloi shamanloi yarka b'silka. You'll go ahead and you'll evaluate the vegetables, the green vegetables, and the beets that are growing in the field, but shikma not. Red Gemara, why do you have to evaluate beets and green site? Yarka b'silka, you can go ahead and na'akar b'nishkol, go let them go ahead and take them. The sycamore tree has to stay on the tree, but vegetables, go ahead and take them. What do you mean? You'll evaluate that the land is worth more now because it has vegetables and has beets. Take the vegetables and the beets. It says, it's speaking with what? There wasn't time to go ahead and sell them. Therefore, the chaycha would rather go ahead, leave the crops, and get paid by the balabas. So far, no question on Rava. Tashma, another kash on Rava. Again, what's Rava's opinion? That you do not get the shvach. That the chaycha does not get the shvach. Tashma, hamakabel sad mechaveroi. Shvius. Now comes the Shemitah year. So Shaman Loi, we go ahead and we make an evaluation. It says Shvius Mika Mafkas Ara. Shvius doesn't take the land away from you. So why do you have to make a Shuma? Shvius you can't plant, but if you made a deal, let's say you made a deal for 6 years and the Shemitah year is year 3, the deal is still on. So why are you making an evaluation? He's not leaving the land, fellas. He's not leaving the land now. He just can't plant. But again, he can't work the land, but the deal is still on. So why are you making an evaluation? Shvius mikamafka ara. The Shvius go ahead and take the land away from him. Elaima says the Gemara. Elaima say hamakabel sada mechaveroi b'yigir yovel. Don't say that it's the Shemitah year, that's shamanloi, but say it's the yovel year and shamanloi. Fred the Gemara the same question. Vakati yovel mi mafkas kablanis doesn't stop the kablanis the yovel year. Says why? Because it says the lashon of the Torah is the tzmisus. Again, what's the lashon of the pasuk? Pasha Yigal. There's no pasuk here. He doesn't quote this pasuk. Well, okay, sorry. Litzmisus means forever. It says it has to be litzmisus. It says v'hari oretz loy simcha litzmisus. The land shouldn't be sold forever. So over here, you're not selling the land. It's not sold. It's in the person's possession. So why would you have to go ahead and make an evaluation if the person is not leaving the land? So you tried makabel by shvius, you tried makabel by yovel, and in both cases, there's no reason to go ahead, Ron, and make an evaluation because the chayker does not have to leave the land. The chitema, if you know, you're going to say ela ema, says the Gemara the following: ela ema haloikeach sada mechaverei. Not that makabel, but someone who buys a field from his friend. Be'egia yovel comes yovel shameloi. Now, what happens? Beyovel, all the land, the steachusa goes back to its owner. It goes back to its owner. So if you buy a field from your friend, and now comes yovel, and it's going to resort to the original owner, then we have to make a shuma. So just like that, right? We would assume that a makabel also if it comes to yovel, he would have to get a shuma as well. You're going to say that you go ahead and the shuma is what? In vegetables, silka v'yarka b'yovel if geruhu. Silka v'yarka is not in sycamore trees. It has to be in sycamore trees. It can't be in vegetables, because vegetables in the yovel are hefker. Elolav, it must be you're making a shuma in yovel, the shvach shikma, right? For shvach shikma. So you have a kasha on Rava. You see that what? When you leave the land, be it yovel, guys, be it leave it yovel, be it at the end of a lease agreement, you do make a shuma, as opposed to Rav, who says you don't. Okay, so that again, that's the bottom line. The bottom line is when I'm leaving this land, do you go ahead and make a shuma or not? We see by yovel leaving the land, you do. So who adin by the end of a lease, you go ahead and you're going to make a shuma because you're leaving the land. Abaya comes to the aid of Rava, and he says that yovel is different. The Amar Kra the Yotzer Mimkar Bayis, right? And it's a house that's been sold. He'll go out in the yovel year. Now, this I do have a pasuk for. V'asher yigol min halviyim v'yotzer Mimkar Bayis v'yer achuzasai b'yovel kibati orial v'yim hu achuzasam tzayich b'nei Yisrael. So you have to leave the cities of Levim. So it goes. It says Mimkar Chayzer. A sale goes back in yovel. Shvach ein Chayzer, but shvach not. In other words, you wanted to tzushtel the following. You wanted to tzushtel the end of a lease to the end of yovel. And you'll say, just like by yovel, you make a shuma, you make an evaluation. Who adin, you make an evaluation by the end of a lease, and it's kasha on Rava. Says the Gemara by yovel, the reason why you make a shuma, because it says Mimkar Chayzer, that the sale is Chayzer. If you sold a house, the money goes back. But shvach, but the improvement that he made in the house doesn't go back. He doesn't get that back. So let's learn from yovel, just like yovel goes back, who had in the leased field, it should go back. It says, the case of yovel was a full-fledged sale, right? And really, it should all stay by lekeach. The yovel, of course, the malkahu. But let's see Rashi on this point. So Rashi is going to tell us the distinction, guys, between, right? He's going to tell us the distinction between yovel and at the end of a lease agreement. Says Rashi, Hasam Zvina Ma'alya. B'chol kamadish ashbecha ara, and as long as the land was getting improving, b'shusei ashbecha, it got better in the rishus of what? Of the lekeach. He bought it. The ara de hadra mishum de yovel avkasa de malkahu. And the reason he's returning the land is only because the Melech HaKadosh Baruch Hu said it goes back. Umayd le'paka malka le'mafka mimkar afka shvacha le'paka. So by what HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to go back goes back, which is the mechira, but shvach does not go back. So therefore, the Gemara wants to say this is a full-fledged what sale. This is a full-fledged sale. So the person who bought the field, right? He has you have a right to pay him for all of his improvements, and that makes a lot of sense. But however, the person who went ahead and leased the field, he never had ownership of the field. And therefore, you can't learn from Yovel that you should get the shvach, right? By Yovel, where it's his, it makes sense to get it. By leasing the field where it's not really his, it's just leased for a certain period of time, you shouldn't get the shvach. And that's Rav's teretz to Yovel. Rav Papa Kibul Aralas Pasta. Rav Papa, he had an agreement. He was kind of field to plant aspasta. We said aspasta is animal food. And Kotchu Ba Taloi, and lo and behold, in the land that he was going ahead and planting aspasta, you had little palm trees growing. And now he had a lease agreement. Kika Mistalik, at the end of the lease, he was leaving, right? Amalahura, Papa said to the owner, Havli Shvacha, give me the improvements. In other words, he wanted a value that the land got better because of the little palm trees that grew. So Amalei Rav Shisha, Brei Rav Idi Rav Papa, said Rav Shishi, the son of Rav Idi to Rav Papa, Elameata, Dikla Va'olim. Let's say when you went ahead and you leased the field, you leased a palm tree, and it grew thicker during the time you had it. Hachanami de boy mar shvache. Would you go ahead and ask for the shvach? Of course not. So too, just like you don't ask for the shvach for the tree getting better, don't ask for the shvach for the trees being there in the first place. However, Amalei Papa told Rav Shisha, Hasam lava daiti the hachanachas. There, when the Makabel went down to the field, he knew this tree was there, and he knew when the tree was there, he wasn't going to get shvach in the tree thickening. Over here, when he went down to cultivate the land, it's for anything that the land would grow. So just like he went down for a spasta, so to huadin he should get for the what? The small palm trees. Kiman, who's Rev Papa hold like? Kabaya, the Amar b'shvach shikma yeshloi. Just like Abayu says that he has rights for the beams of the sycamore tree. So now, but not like Rava. So it says, I feel Rava. Even Rava holds you don't get shvach when you leave a regular leased field. Over here, he could agree with Rav Papa that unannounced saplings that grow, you would get. I feel Rava. Pasam lesle peseda. By the sycamore trees, right? Nothing would happen as a result of the growth of the trees. The trees were there beforehand and they're growing. I have 10, let's say, guys, I have 10 saw to seed. I go ahead, I want to grow a spasta on all 10. Let's say on one of the 10 saw started growing these little trees. I'm taking a loss. I won't be able to go ahead and cultivate all 10. So in other words, by over there, where the tree was existing and the sycamore got bigger, it makes sense that you don't get shvach over there, according to Rava. Masha'en came over here, even Rava would admit you would get the shvach because you're taking a loss, because you could have cultivated 10 saw of aspasta, and now you can only cultivate 9 saw of aspasta. So even Rava, who says you don't get shvach by the sycamore tree, would say you get shvach here by the case of aspasta and the little palm trees. So Rav Shisha said to Rav Papa, "My pesatich, where's the loss?" So he said, "Yoded aspasta, the place where the aspasta could grow." So he said, "Shakol yoded aspasta v'zil." So Rav Shisha said, "Don't give him the valuable one, guys." So what are you doing? You're saying the following: you get 9 aspasta you contracted for. The 10th one you're going to get the value of what? You're going to split the value of trees, correct? So what's your loss? That you couldn't plant aspasta here. Here's the money for a saw of aspasta, but I'm not going to pay you for trees. If your whole taina is on that other 10th saw, you could have planted aspasta. Why do you get what? Trees of palm trees, which are worth much more. Here's the 10th saw of aspasta. Take this one saw. So Amalei, so Papa told him, I'm not kurkuma rishka, Rabbi. You know what? I had the one extra saw. You know what I would have planted? I would have planted a garden saffron. A repeat. We would have get what I could have gone ahead and which we said was very, very expensive, right? This saffron. So I hired out. I wasn't limited to planting aspasta. I hired out for the purpose of aspasta, but I could go. It's not harmful to the ground. So he says, since Rav Papa says of shishas, I could have planted this. Be happy to just give me what the value of the trees, because I could have planted something more, and that would have been a bigger loss. So Amalei, so Shisha said, "Golia daitcha de lemishkal vastuke of it." When you said you could plant saffron, you showed that what? You work the field for the purpose of taking what you what? What you planted. So korkma rishka v'zil. Go ahead, take your korkma rishka and go. Therefore, you have no claim except the value of the wood, but not live trees. In other words, you're telling me you would have taken something and taken it away. You want to get the value of half of a live tree. A live tree stays. So just go ahead and now take the ne'etzim, the value of a tree cut down. And therefore, that was Rav Shisha's finding argument to Rava, to Rav Papa. Rabbi bar Abaya kibalara. Rabbi bar Abaya went to a deal of chachiris. V'hadalei mishunisa. And what happened was, rocks came up, and kotchu be'zardasa, and through the rock grew this zardasa, some type of tree. Art Scroll types it a sorb tree. I don't know what that is. It's a fruit tree, I guess. Kikam Mistalik, when Rabbi was leaving at the end of the lease, Amalu Hoveli Shvachoy, pay me for what? For the improvements to the land. So Amra Papi, Mishum da Sisami Muloi, since you came from a family of mumim, Amrisa Mili Mumlasa. So it seems that Rabbi bar Abaya, obviously he was the son of Abaya. Abaya, the Gemara, I think it's in Rosh Hashanah, Yud Zayin or Yud Ches, they were descendants of Eli. Abaya and Rava were descendants of Eli. Eli was a Kayin. We know Eli's children were cursed. They didn't live a long time. They only lived to 18. It says Abaya lived to Abaya and Rava. Once at Torah, one at Meisim Toivim, they lived machlekes whether it's Rabba or Rabba, but they lived longer. So says Rav Papi to Rav Bibi, you're the son of Abayas, because you're a descendant of Eli, who has unfortunately had the curse of Chafni and Pinchas going ahead and being Mizalzel Kachim. So therefore, you said an accursed thing. You're saying something that's blemished. I feel Rav Papa Layoma Ela de Islay Pseida. Rav Papa only said you take from the Shvach when there's a Pseida, when there's a loss. Hacha my Pseida Islay. What loss is there over here? Usually trees don't grow from rocks. Rav Yosef Havaleyahu Shatala. He had this planter. Now, this guy would plant vines for him. Rashi says he planted vines. Shachiv, he died. The Shavik Chamisha Chasan Vasa. So this planter, he died and he left 5 son-in-laws. And these 5 son-in-laws now are going to be working the field. Amar said Rav Yosef, Ada Idna Chad Hash the Chamisha. Now there was only 1 worker. Now I have 5. Ada Idna Lehavi Sam Chadadi Blame absolutely. Till now, the planter, when he was alive, he wasn't samech on anybody, and he did the work himself. Hashta Chamisha Sam Chadadi Mafsidli. What do they say? If there's 2 cooks, it spoils the broth, right? You have 1 person, he's going to do the job. You have 2 people, this one says the other one's going to do the job, and this one says the other one's going to do the job. And now I have 5. Hashta Chamisha Samchi Adadi Mafsidali. So Amalahu, therefore, what the planter, the 5 son-in-laws, they said to Rav Yosef, said these 5 son-in-laws, Ishak Lisu Shavchayu Umistab Lisu Mutav. If you take your payment, right, that you improve the land, that's great. If not, I'll remove you without going ahead and giving you anything, right? Dam Rav Yehuda, Vitem Rav Huna, Vitem Rav Nachman. Hai Shatola de Shachiv. If a guy who plants vines, he dies. Yorshin Bilay Mistalkalu B'Leishvacha. You're able to give him away for nothing. So therefore, Rav Yosef said, "I'm doing you a good turn because I'm going to be. You're not the original guy. I really could get rid of you without paying you anything, and I'm willing to pay you something." However, mostly it's right. That Yehuda never said this. So it's not really true. You can't do whatever you want. Ahushatala, there was this planter. The Amalahu, he said to the balabas, Im if sadinon misalakna. If I cause you a loss, right, I'll leave. If I cause you a loss, I'll leave. In other words, I'll terminate the lease. It won't cost you anything. If I cause you a loss, I'm gone. In fact, Afsid, he caused them a loss. Some Rabbi Yehuda, Mistalik Shvacha, he leaves, like he said, without anything. Rav Kahana Amar Mistalik v'Shachal Shvacha. He leaves, but he takes the Shvach. U'moid Rav Kahana, the Amar Ipasidna Mistalakna B'Lo Shvacha. If he says that what, I'll leave. If I cause you a loss, I'll leave, and I'll leave without Shvach. It's the word guys without Shvach. Mistalik B'Lo Shvacha, then he leaves without Shvach. Rav Amar Asmachtahu, asmachta. Guys, we know by now what's an asmachta. When a person says something, but he doesn't really mean, right? There's no way he felt he was going to cause him a loss. Therefore, he really didn't mean it, and therefore you would have to go ahead and give him a shvach. You'd have to pay him up. Ula Rava, Maishna Mechodet Nan. What Rava who said over here, you'd have to give him, it's a smachta, and you'd have to pay him. In Oiver V'li Ovid, if he leaves the field, he leaves the field fallow, and he doesn't work it. Ashalim b'mitfa, I'll pay you. And there he has to pay. Why don't we say this is not smachta? It says, Gemara Hasam, my da'afsim mishalim. Over there, the loss, by not working the field, he's paying. Hacha, my da'afsim minakale. Here, the loss will deduct from his payment. The idach yavina lay, but the rest right, will give what's coming to him. Over there, by the case of not working the field at all, right? When he doesn't do any work over there, we'll say what? He's going to pay for his loss. Mashenkin over here, we'll start off that he has payment coming to him. So whatever loss will deduct, and the rest will give to him. Runya Shatola de Ravina Hava. Runya was the planter of Ravina. Avsid, and he caused Ravina loss. Salke, Ravina got rid of him. Asla came to Rava. Runya came to Rava. Amalach ma chazi makavali. You see what Ravina did to me? Amalei, Rava said Shapa, but he did the right thing. So Amalei Runya said to Rava, Holy Hasrabi, he never warned me. So Amalei Rava, he doesn't have to. You know why? Because Rava L'tamei Dama Rava. These are certain professions that you have to be very careful, and if you're not careful, you lose your job. Mikri Dardaki, a kiddie keep Dama Rava, Mikri Dardaki, a teacher of children, Shatala, a planter, Habacha, a butcher, Umana, Machlekes, whether it's a bloodletter or a moil, on a base, Visafer Masa, and we saw this earlier, and the barber of the city, Kulon Kimusarim Vaindim Dami. They're all what? They're all considered what in the state of what? Of being warned. And therefore, you're a shatala, you ruined this guy's kerem. Again, wine was a really, really big beverage of the day. You ruined it, and therefore you lose your job. Now you lose the shvach. Kala de milsa, kol pseid loihadim, any loss that what is you cannot get back. Kimusarim vaindim dami, what? You're in a position, you're in a profession. If you do something what, you can't go ahead and correct it. Therefore, you're considered warned. Hahushtatala, the Amaluhu, there was this planter who said to the balabas, Habali Shabchai, give me the amount of money that I used that I improved the field. The Ba'in and the Mesak Lar Yisrael, because I want to move to Eretz Yisrael. Asl Kamei Rav Papa Bashmuel, they came in front of Rav Bashmuel. Amaluhu, he told them, Habali Shvachei, go ahead and give him the improvements. Now, the Havamina is that they get the total improvements. So I'm like, Rava, Iu Ashkich, the planter, did he make the field? No, let's say the field worth $1,000. Does he get $1,000? Was it Ihu Ashbich, Arloi Ashbich? The land also had something to do with it. So Amalei, so Rava said, I'm a palga the shvacha coming to look. I didn't say you should get the 1,000. I said you should get 500. Amalei, Rapapa Bashmul said, Ada Idna, until now, Havishaka Balabayas Palga, the owner would take half, the Shatola Palga, and the planter would take half. But 1 second, Hashda Boy Lemesiv Munsal Arisa, since he's not finishing the job, he's going to have to hire a Oris, and the Oris is going to have to give a third. Okay, I want to go ahead and do this outside, fellas. It's a little easy arithmetic. Let's do it. I plotted it out. It'll make things easy, okay? You can see this? Should I make it bigger? Okay. You have 6 vines, guys. You're starting off with 6 vines. The Oris is going to get a third. The Oris is going to get a third. The Balabas is going to get a half. And we're going to deduct for the Shasala who's leaving. So now, if you have 6 vines and the Oris gets a third, that's his percentage, then you're left with, you take TS2, you're left with 4. Now, from that 4, how are we going to divide it up? We're going to give, says the Gemara, Revia Duhu Danka. We're going to give a quarter, which is a sixth. What does that mean, a quarter, which is a sixth? A quarter of 4, which is 1, which is 1/6 of the original amount. A quarter of 4, which is 1, which is the hudanka of the original amount of 1/6. So now, if he's getting 2 and he's getting 1, then the balabas gets 3. It leaves 3 for the balabas. That's if you give the oris from the original part. What happens, fellas, if riva what's the lashon? Riva, I guess lashon mamish. This is mamish. It's a shin. I didn't write it. Okay. Riva mamish. So now, guys, you said a quarter mamish, a quarter. So now the shasol is going to get a quarter of the, not a quarter of the amount after we deduct from the oris, but a quarter from the original amount. We're starting off with 6. We're going to give a quarter of 6, which is 1.5. If now you give the oris a third of 6, he's getting his 2. So now 2 and 3 and 1.5 is 3.5. That leaves only 2.5 for the balabas, which is 1/12 of the original. So you're causing the balabas a loss. So let's see this inside. Says the Gemara. Amalei, ana palga de shvacha kaminulach. Said Rav Papa Bashmul said to Rava, I meant half of the shvach. So Amalei, so Rava said to Rav Papa Bashmul, Adna idna, until now, have a shokal balabayas palga. The balabayas would take half. Vishatala palga, because those are the only 2 games in town, fellas, right? That was the deal. There's no oris over here, because you assume that what? That the choicher will finish the job. He's not making aliyah in the middle of the lease agreement, right? So you have half and half. If he finishes his deal, you're going to get half and half. But he's not finishing. He stops in the middle. Now it's going to cost the balabas more because he has to hire a sharecropper to finish the job. So now, hashta boy lemesiv mansel arisa. He's got to give a third. He's got to give a third now to who? He's got to give a third to the aris. Now, since he has to give a third to the aris, he can't get half. Amalei, so Rav Papa Shmuel said to Rava, Riva de Shvacha Kamina. I meant that what? That he shouldn't get half, but 1/4 of the improvement. Okay, now, what does that mean? Savra Vashila Meimar, Riva, a quarter, the Hudanka, that's a 1/6. Guys, look at the chart. How much is he getting? The Shasala, he's getting a quarter, which is what? A 1/6 of the original amount. 1/4 of 4 is 1. 1 is 1/6. 1 is 1/6 of 6. Good? Guys, good, right? Push it. Which leaves him with 3. So the Rav Yumi back in the Gemara, the Rav Yumi read Rav Nachumi, Ba'asri the Shakal Shatola Palga Varisa Tilsa, in a place where the planter gets a half and the oritz gets a third. Hai Shatola de Boiles the Luke, if the planter wants to leave, Yavin le Shvacha, give him the Shvach, Umisalkina le, Ki Hechid le Lamatya Hefse le Balabayas, in a way that the Balabayas won't go ahead and have a loss. So if you do it this way, fellas, he'll get 3. If you do it this way, he's going to take a loss of a half. What's the difference between this way and this way? Over here, you're giving the oris his share beforehand, and then you were dealing with the number 4. Over here, you're making the deduction of 6 and then giving the oris his amount, and then you're going to have that half. Back in the Gemara, river the hudanka, a quarter, which is 1/6 of the original amount, right? Shapir, then the balabais won't take a loss. Ela amit river mamish. If you're going to say, fellas, a quarter mamish, a quarter of the total, a quarter of 6, kamotile pseidel balabayas pal gadanka. You're going to cause him half of a danka, half of a 6, which is a 12th. Look at the chart. 1/4 of 6. The shasol is going to take 1.5. The oris is going to take a third of the 6, which is 2, which only leaves 2.5. And 2.5 is 1/12 of the original amount. So over here it's 1/6, over here it's 1/12. Says the Gemara, now we're going to ask a kasha. If I can do mathematics and end up with 3 over here, why don't you do that? So says the Gemara, Amalei Rav Acha Breder of Yosef Rav Ashi, said Rav Acha, the son of Rabbi Yosef to Rav Ashi, I have a different calculation, and the balabas is still going to end up with 3. What's that calculation? So watch. You're going to start off, you're going to give the Shasala is going to get a quarter of the original amount, which is 1.5. The balabas will get 3/4 of 6, which is 4.5. The Oris will get 1/3 of not of 6, but it'll get 1/3 of 4.5. He'll get 1/3 of 4.5. Again, you're dividing. You're dividing. You gave the 1.5 to the Shasol already. So 1.5 and 4.5 is 6. 1/3 of 4.5 is 1.5. Now, if you go ahead and take the balabas, what he has to give to the Oris, 4.5, and you minus 1.5, you're left with 3. So Fred the Gemara, Fred Rav Acha Breder of Yosef Rav Ashi, why do you think that this is the only way to go ahead and denominate for him to not take a loss? I have another way to denominate. Instead of giving the Oris 1/3 of 6, give the Oris 1/3 after the deduction given to Shasala. So Amalei Rav Acha Breder of Yosef, Anam Mansra Dilach Havlei Larisei. That mana, he said, you take your 3/4 and give that portion to what? To the sharecropper. So you're taking, the balabas is taking 3/4, you're taking 1/3, and therefore he's going to get 1.5. And I'll take my portion. The Ba'in Avdin and Bay. I'll take the 1/4 of the whole total sum, which is 1.5. And that still leaves you with 3. Guys, good? You have the basic arithmetic is in front of you, yes or no? If you didn't get the basic arithmetic, it's pretty easy, but here's the bottom line. We want to make the mathematics to the extent that it'll be the least possible loss to the balabas. If I go ahead and first give the 1/3 to the sharecropper, he's going to get 3 to balabas. If I first give the 1/3, if I give the 1/3 to if the sharecropper in the second denomination, right? I do the whole thing first. I do first a 1/4 of 6, it'll be 1.5. Then I'll be down to 2.5. Says Rav Acha to Rav Ashi, I have a way where she can get 3, right? But and which will be fine. So why don't you like that way? Why don't you, in other words, take the sharecropper, 3/4 to you, a third, and the sharecropper, but you get 1.5. You'll get 1.5 from 1.5 will be 3, and the plant will get 3, and you'll get 3. Why don't you do that? Says the Gemara. Ki matis l'shchitas Omar. So Rav Ashi said, Ki matis l'shchitas kachim. When we get to Zvachim, Tova actually come and ask me a question, which is a kind of funny answer. Look at Rashi. Rashi goes, look at Rashi. Kishmak b'shaka. Says Rashi. Ki matis l'shchitas kachim, where it gets wide about 6 lines down. Pikarti b'cha, says Rav Ashi to Rav Acha, I recognize in you that you're very sharp. And you're able to delve into things and ask. When you get to Masechtes Zvachim, shehi amuka, which is a very deep Masechta, actually and then I'll be able to go ahead and give an answer to your question. That he's giving him just a dichoy, v'loihi, says Rashi. It's not a dichoy. He's not just telling him to go. He was mekabel his kasha. Chadid the kushim al yehi. First of all, it's a great kasha. Void mitikama kasav Rav Ashi lemeiman. Echal nemiskon lav hachiu. When the Gemara continues, you see it's not the end of things. Kufa Amrav ben Yume berei Rav Nechume ba'asru the shakal shatola palga. In a place where the shatola takes his percentage is a half, Barisa Tulsa and the sharecropper gets a 1/3. High shatola the boy is stuke when the planter wants to leave. Yavina le shvache, you give him a shvach umisalkina le kihechid lifts the beilabas, but do it in a way that the balabois will get the least amount. Do it in a way in our example of 6 vines, do it in a way where he gets 6 rather than Do it when it gets 3 rather than 2.5. Again, I think it's pretty pashut, this sign. Amar Rav Menyumi bereid the Rav Nechumi on that. Kupa Saba. Let's say you have an old vine that stopped giving its produce. So it's just wood. Now it's expected. After 10 years, guys, your water boiler is going in the basement. You can count on it, right? That's the lifespan. There's certain things that have lifespans. So they knew that this tree, somewhere in the middle of the Chakiris agreement, would go ahead on, and that's it. So now it's considered part of the land, and therefore he's going to get half. He's going to get half. Not the Paris, he's going to get half the tree, the wood. Shot for Nora, however, if the river comes and the river is going to uproot the tree, and that's not something you could have gone ahead and counted upon, then river, he's only going to go get, play on words, river, he's only going to get what? A quarter. He's only going to get a quarter. Ahu Gavra, the Mashkin Pardiso Lecharve Lesashanim, there was a fellow who had an agreement for a paradise for 10 years. Rashi says this could be our famous Mashkanta de Surah that he has in his possession, and he's working down. At the end of the 10 years, you won't have to pay him anything, or he's working with the Kednaisa that every year he's chopping a little bit off the mortgage. The Kosh Lechamin Shnin, and after 5 years, as was expected, it went ahead and it stopped giving fruit. So Abaya Amma, it says Abaya, Pei Rahava, the dead wood is not considered part of the karka, but it's considered what? Peira. Since it's considered peira, then the lender could take it. Then the lender is able to what? To go ahead and take it. The lender is on the field now. He's able to take it. Rav Amma Karnahava, it's part of the field, and therefore be lokech by karka who oichel peiris. Okay, so now we have a relationship over here. This field is owned by the loiva. It's being held by the malva. The malva is able to eat the peiris, and this is okay. He's working off the loan, right? And giving her a percentage. So now, this wood, how do we view it? Do we view it what as peiris, and just like all the peiris goes to what to the malva, so too this goes to the malva? Or no, do we view it as part of the land, and therefore the loiva still has a piece of the action? So that we have a machloikis. Says Abaya, it's peiris, and therefore it belongs totally to the malva. Says Rava, it's in fact considered keren, it's considered part of the land, and therefore, since it's part of the land, the lova owns it, and the malva has use of the peiris. So therefore, take the wood, sell it, buy land, peiris, and then the malva can consider to eat peiris. That's the machlokes. Guys, you got it straight? One more time. In a situation, you have a mashkin. The mashkin is in the hands of the malva. The malva is eating the peiris, and that's working off the loan. So anything that's considered peri belongs to the malva. Anything that's considered land belongs to the loiva, and the malva will eat the peiris, just like he's doing on this piece of land right now. So you have, at the end of 5 years, we had a vineyard, and it was shot, and it was expected to be shot. Right? Now you have wood. What do you do? How do we view it? Do we view it as a peri and it belongs to the malva on the land, or do we view it as keren, as the land, and it belongs to it owns by the loiva, and the malva eats the peiris? So we have machloikis. Abaya says it's peira, and Rabbi says it is karna. Meisvei, we're going to Abaya yavish elon. You have a mashkin, and the elon goes ahead and gets dried out by niktsas, or it gets cut down. Now we assume you cut down a tree when it's not good anymore. Shnei masurim bo. They both can't use it. It's not. They both can't use it. The malva can't use it because it's not peiris. The loiva can't use it because it's in the field of the mashkin. So what do? Ketzad yasa, what do? You machru le'etzim, you go ahead and sell it, and you lock it in karka, and you buy karka. Who echel peiris, and the malva will eat peiris. My love, yavesh dum yid niktsatz. Must be when it gets dried out. It must be similar to when it's going to be cut down. Ma niktsatz bismano. You can only cut down a tree after it stops giving fruit. Af yavesh bismano. So too yavesh is an anticipated time. So l'chayra, this is exactly our shaila. We knew after in 10-year period, after 5 years, it's going to be shot. And l'chayra, nonetheless, says what do? You sell it because it's considered keren. So you see over here the same thing, that yavesh, we have yavesh and niktsatz. Cutting down, I assume, is where it's no good anymore. Yavesh must be, it's dried up, it's no good anymore. And then Yavesh similar to Niksas and Memela. It's a raya to Rava and a Kasha and Abaya. The Ketani Yalocha ben Karka, who Eichel Paris, Alma Karna Have, Kasha and Abaya. Says Malay, it's Niksas Dumya the Yavesh. It's speaking where you cut it down, similar to Yavesh. Ma Yavesh below Manoi, just like Yavesh is below Manoi. Now, guys, Abaya is agreeing if it's Shleib Manoi that it's Keren. Abaya only argues when it was anticipated. If you look at the bottom Rashi, below Manoi, 2 lines up in Rashi, below Manoi, Moida Abaya, Maya's Moida, below Manoi, if it's not an anticipated time, Shachada Lasses Peri, that it wasn't anticipated that it would stop making Paris. The keeping the lav urche, since it's not normal, lav peru, it's not Paris. V'lav adapted the hachinachas, and he didn't go down having that in mind that he's going to use of this wood. He thought that tree would never have use of the wood. You see, it's interesting that it depends upon what the person thought. Okay, so Memela, ma yavesh b'lois man, just like yavesh is not anticipated, af niktsas, so too it's speaking where it's cut down, not in its right time. It's still bearing fruit, and therefore it's not a kasha on a buyer. Tashma, another chance to shlug up a baya. Tashma, naflu loy gefanim v'zeisim. This woman, her father dies, and now falling to her from her father are vines and olives, and they're old. They're both old. They're old. Amid aleph, yimachru le'etzim. You could sell them for wood. Yilach ben karka, and then you go ahead and buy land. And then the husbandly Paris. Again, a husband to the land is similar to the Malva to the Loiva. They both have right. The woman owns the land. He has rights to the Paris. The Loiva owns the land, and the Malva is using it. So over here, what do you see over here? A kasha and a baya. It says the Gemara, Ema bihiskinu. It's speaking where what they became old. In other words, it's not that they all of a sudden old, they became old, and therefore it was anticipated. It was not expected. It was unanticipated. And as we saw in Rashi, a bias moida, when it's unexpected, that you would go ahead, sell it and shit. Be by the same another teretz. Lav mi ukimta lahahi. And when we learned this Mishnah in Masechta Ksubis, kigoyin shenaf lo bisad acheres, the trees that fell to the wife, the husband, the father, the dead man only owned the trees. He didn't own the land. He owned the trees, he didn't own the land. And it could be speaking where the trees were what? Old trees. So what do you guys, so watch. If they're old trees and it was anticipated that they stopped giving fruit, if you're going to go ahead and have the husband eat the Paris, what is she going to be left with? She doesn't have any karka. There's no karka over here. All the karka is the tree. The karka is the tree because it's not on her land. It's a tree that her father owned and bequeathed to her, but the land belonged to somebody else. So if you're going to say like a baya that it's a peri and the husband eats it, she'll be left with nothing. So in this situation, baya would admit it's similar to what, where it's an unexpected drying out, and it's moida that you sell it and you buy land. So to Hutu over here, you sell the wood and buy land, and thus you take care that ensure that it's not kal yakarna. They saying, "Alav mi yakmin alahi kagoin shenafle besada acheres the kal yakarna," that all the karen will be used up if we let the husband eat it. Therefore, we go ahead and sell it and buy pairs with.